Welcome to Just Breathe, the title of this series that I have been sharing for some months right now. And what I have been sharing on, as you know, if you've been watching, is really how to live in 100% surrender to our heart's knowingness, which, in other words, means in trust of our divine wisdom or our intuition, if you want to call it that way, and using the breath itself as our vessel, as our guide, as our safe space. And within this context, I'd like to share a bit of my story with you today. So I came across compassionate breath in 2008 during a workshop that a friend of mine, Placidia, was sharing about the breath, and where she shared Norma Delaney's video on compassion and overcoming fears. And I don't know if you know, but Norma Delaney is really the doctor of breath. She is no longer physically amongst us, but she is always with us within our choice to be this compassionate one that we are, and to allow the breath to connect us, to reunite us, human and divine, to allow us to listen clearly to our soul. And it was right after that workshop that I all of a sudden felt deep down in my belly that I was falling in love. But now it wasn't falling in love with someone else, it was falling in love within myself. This was the key turning point for me to realize that I did have inside of me everything that I really needed. Of course, that key moment where I felt this immense, amazing love affair beginning within myself. I was not fully aware it was the love affair between me and my soul at that moment, but I did come to that knowingness very soon. It was from then on that a huge, huge journey of integration, of inviting all of me, all of the unloved me. Everything I remembered and everything I didn't remember from this and other lifetimes that was lying in my so-called darkness. Because it was from that moment onwards that I knew the time had come, and that I knew that I was safely held in the arms of my essence, who would be receiving every single part of me back into wholeness. And the breath, just simple, very simple, natural breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose as we naturally do. Just the breath was my constant inner guru. And at that time, I started writing in my diary very, very, very much every single day, sharing my own inner turmoils, my own questions, my own responses, discerning between my wisdom and my mind's chatter. And this became even more clear when I did something called Master Mentoring with Norma Delaney and Garrett Anofsky, her husband and companion. They are both no longer here on earth, but they are, with the legacy they have left in us to really trust and surrender this sweet love affair between human and divine. So then that's where I really, really learned how to discern between the mind's chatter and the soul's wisdom. And I have shared a video about how to do that. And I started also before that to invite my essence into my life every single day, to be with me no matter where I was, what I was doing, to stop thinking that there were some human activities that were not as, how can I say, as divine as others. To really let go of the idea that soul would somehow be corrupted if it were invited into the very human existence of me. And so I kept on inviting, allowing, and at some point I started asking my essence to invite me. So I started asking, what is it that you, oh beloved essence, would like to experience today with me? What is your invitation for me today? And here, that's where it really became clearer and clearer to me that there is nothing that our essence is not capable of guiding us through. So I started listening to these daily invitations and living each day accordingly, discovering how new it became. Because then even the very normal day-to-day things became completely different because I was living them from a new perspective. And then I went to Romania to the New Energy Syncretize teacher training with Geoffrey Hoppy and Linda Hoppy from the Crimson Circle. And then when I was sitting at the airport, I started writing the book, my first book, the book that would be called Soul Songs, The Melody Within. This was in 2010. And for that book, I used 31 of those invitations that I had been living for months, for even years, and writing in my diary. I used 31 as in one for each day of the month. And I also, of course, shared many other things in this book. And not being a designer, I edited it myself on Word. And I also was invited from within to take photos of flowers. And I did. When I started, it was winter time. And that was a wonderful discovery because I discovered how many beautiful flowers there were all year round. I hadn't been so aware of that before I had been invited to look and see. And so the book contains also photographs made by me, and it contains something called the soul songs, which is invitations, short poems that start always, if you knew you were an angel. And then they have an invitation. And so now fast forward to 2020, I did a presentation of my book Be Love Beyond Illusion for the professional school here in Tomar, Portugal, where I live. And this was used as a school project. So we're talking about 10th to 12th grade students. And there were different teachers from different subjects involved in this school project, all around the theme of love. And so they created illustrations for my book, they created love letters, they created also graphics, and they also discussed the theme in psychology. And then I had a presentation, a live presentation of the theme, Be Love Beyond Illusion, for all of the youngsters at that school. There were over 200 people at that session, and it was an amazing experience. And at that time, the graphic design teacher asked me if I had any other book I would like to see redesigned. And I did. And it was the Soul Songs. I also have it in the Portuguese version, Baladas da Alma. And it really had been waiting because I had just not printed any more copies for, I would say, maybe around 5 years or so, because I knew I wanted it redesigned and I still hadn't gotten down to finding who would do it. I just let it be. And so this opportunity landed directly on the beach of my existence. And that's how the new version, the new edition of Soul Songs is going to be launched publicly on Monday, the 17th of May 2021 at 10:30 a.m. Portugal time, and I will broadcast this live onto Facebook and eventually YouTube on my channels, InPassion Coaching. And it is such a real life example of how living in surrender, in trust, one breath at a time, brings out so much more. Because, now it's not that I looked for a designer to do this, and this would be just between me and the designer and the eventual readers that would read it afterwards. It involves also these students at this school, these youngsters, whom I get to share about what it's like to trust our intuition, what it's like, what life can bring about when we just breathe and allow. So really the gift is so much grander. I want to show it to you. So here, I did not suggest this design, okay? This was really what was created by the students themselves. And inside, it looks really beautiful. So these are the separating pages. They're all different, separating the chapters. And then the soul songs themselves. So, my photos are now much, much better because they have been worked on. See? And this book has become something so much more precious. And then even adding to that, to use for the portrait. I had sent in a photo. But then a friend called Ranka Mirik from S- Serbia has shared a portrait that she did. And I loved it so much. I asked her, would you be willing to draw my portrait? And she said yes. I said, wow, okay. So I will use that portrait in my Soul Songs new edition. And this is it. So, so much more has come from this element of trust, but I still haven't finished. Then I wanted to make some cards from the 31 soul songs, and it was so simple. So at the professional school, the teacher himself, Luis, who I thank endlessly, he's been so kind and has worked tirelessly for this project. What did he do? He created the cards for me. See? So now I have these cards, 31 cards, and I have them, of course, in English and Portuguese, that a person can use even without the book and just draw a card and see what the invitation is for the day. And I'll draw one for us now. Oh, it's the same that I showed you, 17. And it says, if you knew you are an angel, would you love and accept? Or would you fight and reject? And before leaving you for today, I'd like to show you how my first version of the book was. So I wrote it during the year of 2010 and was taking photos during 2010 and 11 and published it in 2012. And this is what it looked like. So I'll show you inside. That's how the chapters were separated with these flowers, and that's what it looked like before. The end that I showed you, my bio, was like this. And now the conclusion page, the epilogue page is like this. So as you can see, it has been a huge leap. And really, when I come to think of it, actually every single one of my books has a magical story around it. Maybe it's because it's my passion. I have this passion, this constant soul invitation to express, and writing is one of the ways I like to do that the most. I don't know why, but don't need to, do I? The thing is, every single book I've published or been involved in has a wonderful, beautiful, magical story around it. I'll just read to you what is written on the back cover. This book is a practical testimony of how to include the divine into the daily life of our human experiences. It is a living manual of being beyond appearances, beyond the many illusions that limit us and keep us from a simple, balanced, and serene life, feeling the true taste of joy, the true fragrance of each creative moment. It is a book of new perspectives, new potentials, new energy, new ways to be in the world, opening new frontiers, learning how to listen to the voice of your soul in the body, feet firmly on the ground, but keeping an expanded awareness which pierces through the linear habit of survival and drama. For each one is invited to find their own inner melody, to try and include in day-to-day life what has probably been missing all along: the true self, peaceful and safe, human and divine, divine and human, reunited as one. Finally, this is the story of the greatest love affair, a contemporary example of the irrefutable fact that only love is real. And it makes me smile all of these years now, almost 10 years later, this re-edition, because really now I have a much grander perspective of the result of this, of the result of following these daily soul invitations. My life has become truly and honestly a blissful, graceful landscape of love, serenity, and it is something that I am not only grateful for every single day, every single breath, but that I enjoy sharing just for the pure beauty of it. There's no other reason really to do it. It's something that happens naturally, this sharing of this possibility of this way of life. I do it because I can, and because I know that there are so many out there who are also wanting to live this life in alignment, in coherence with our highest self, our grandest potential. So the Just Breathe today was a little bit different. If you'd like the book, it will be available in ebook format in not much time. And the physical format, you will really have to ask me to send it to you because it won't be available any other way. Thank you and see you next time. Remember, just breathe and allow.